right, let's see. Are we up and running? Let's check our signal here real quick to see if we've got looks like it's still showing. Ah, there we go. We just rolled over. Cheers, cheers. Making noise, making noise.
There we go. We just rolled over.
Yeah, sounds like the noise level is pretty good there. So let me go ahead and grab this link real quick. I'll post on my social medias here, and then we'll just go ahead and get started today. So yeah, hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them. I publish online. I've been running games, role-playing games, mostly D&D since 1987. I've been creating content for the DMsGuild since 2017. And I'm currently, I guess, sort of developing a D20 adjacent system for guilds, kingdoms, and a light role-playing game. That's basically all ability checks. If in the D20 system, typically you roll a 20-sided die, you add modifiers, and then you try to hit a number that's a target number or above is a success. So the way that we're building this is we have a scale of difficulty from 1 to 10, which is very similar to Cypher's system. To succeed at a difficulty 1 is a 4, and it scales up to a difficulty 10 is a 31. 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22, 25, 28, 31. It's scale 1 to 10. That's also the bounded accuracy range of ability score of hit model the range of difficulty numbers in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition ranges basically from 10 to 31. That anything lower than 10 is pretty questionable whether you even need to roll a die or not. But basically, so 4, 4, 1, and then 10, 31. That gives us the entire pitch range of the bounded accuracy curve inside of Dungeons and Dragons. And so the system that we're building is designed to work within that curve. So if you want to defeat challenge of 4, it would take a 13. So basically it's the challenge level, the difficulty times 3 plus 1 equals the number. So 2 times 3, 6 plus 1 is 7. The difficulty of a second rank challenge, a difficulty 2 is a 7. 3 is a 10. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10. So, or you could reword it to be multiply the difficulty times 3, and that's the number you have to beat. So if it's a difficulty 7, then you have to beat a 21, rolling a 22 or better. A super easy way to remember it. The way that penalties and challenges work is that you have your scale of 1 to 10. So like say a 5. So you have to roll at least a 16 to hit a difficulty of 5, and the difficulty is the number of successes that you need. And every tick above the difficulty, every what's the word I want to use? There's the difficulty, the tier, I guess. The tier of the challenge is 5. So if I roll tier 7, I beat the challenge by 2, so I just did 2 points of success towards that tier 5 challenge. If I rolled less than the challenge requires, like if I rolled a 15, which is actually a failure in tier 5 because I have to roll at least a 16. So if I rolled a 15, I got 1 failure. So that will create a penalty. It'll either deal a point of damage or it'll create a new complication, being something else that only requires a difficulty. If I fail to roll by 1, that creates a 1. And so that 1 can either be a point of damage, and if your characters only have like say 5 or 10 hit points, then that's going to be really threatening. So at first level they have 10 hit points, and then they gain 5 hit points per level up to 5th level. So at 5th level they cap with 30 hit points. And if you rolled a tier 5 on a difficulty 10 challenge, you just took 5 points of damage, for instance. Or everyone nearby took 5 points of damage, or 5 points of damage divided between everybody. So you can mix up how the damage is distributed if you're dealing damage to the team. Alternatively, you can create an additional conflict. So if it's a difficulty 10, if it's a tier 10 challenge, you failed by 5, instead of just dealing damage to the team, you could create a second challenge that's tier 5. So now you have to roll a 31 against DC 10, and you have to roll a 16 against DC 5. And you have to check, you'd have to decide where do you want your action economy this round to go to. Towards the new complication of 5 or the main threat of 10. 10 could be the boss, like the big bad evil guy. And when you fail to attack them, you failed by 5, so instead of being able to attack them, minions come into the room and take the hit for the big boss, and now there's an elite guard protecting the big bad. So now you have to fight the elite guard and the big bad at the same time. That's where your complication comes from. And then since the complication, these new minions that just entered the room are only 5th tier, and if you're fighting 10th tier creatures, that probably means you're 5th level. So you're going to have a modifier of D12 plus D6 plus a stat, which is probably going to be like a +3 or +4. So like you'll have a D10, a D20 roll plus 10 plus a randomizing effort die or skill die, as it were. It's at first level it's a D4, then D6, D8, D10, and at 5th level it's a D12. So when you occasionally, some circumstances, you get the effort die, and you get a free effort die every couple rounds, depending on how you're using your abilities. When you exhaust all of your abilities, they all refresh, and you get an effort die with it, and you can spend that effort die at any time that you want. And then because you're making ability checks, but once you use one ability score, you can't use that ability score until your abilities recycle. So like in physical challenges, you're constantly fluxing between strength, dexterity, and constitution as power, skill, and grit. So you're deciding, am I going to make this attack with skill? Am I going to make this attack with grit? Am I going to make this attack with power? And so that's the 3 levers that you're pulling. Once I use power, I can't use power again until I've used skill and grit. And once I've pulled all 3 of those levers, they all reset. And every time the levers reset, you get a fresh effort die. And the effort die can be added to the die roll. So if I have a +3 in strength, a -1 in dexterity, and a +1 in constitution, then it'd be D20 +3, D20 -1, D20 +3, and that'd be first level, for instance. And then there's the intelligence, charisma, and wisdom stats, which is power, skill, and grit. So those also have, like, on a range of, your stat array is +3, +2, +1, 0, -1, -2. So as you're going through, as you gain levels, your stats go up, your proficiency bonus goes up, you get a larger effort die, and you're always trying to hit the target numbers of the tier of difficulty that you're facing. And when you fail the difficulty, it creates new challenges. There you go. So you can use that system at the level of guilds and kingdoms, or on a ship, or as an army, or as individual characters. It's just an ability check system. If you pass the check, you work your way towards success. So difficulty, if it's a 5th tier challenge and I rolled a 7, that difficulty has 5 tiers of damage or progress that you need to make to eliminate it. So if I rolled 7 on a tier 5 challenge, that's 2 points of progress that I made. And so while our team is making progress, I had an example previously of, like, if the tier was 5 and I only rolled and I had 1 result of failure, it could deal a point of damage to 1 person. It could deal a point of damage to some or all of the people that are within range of the penalty. It could create a new complication, a difficulty of 1, which would only require a die roll of 4. So basically, it just distracts somebody for a round. Otherwise, if left unchecked, it's going to deal damage to you. And otherwise, you could heal a point. So when the team dealt 2 points of damage to the threat, like it's a monster, they did 2 points out of 5. When they failed that die roll, they created a failure of 1. The DM could decide, instead of dealing that damage or creating an additional threat, I'm going to heal 1 point of damage on the creature that you're currently facing. Like it gets a second wind, or it shrugs off the hit. So those are the 3 levers you can pull: new complications, damaging the team, or removing damage from the threat. So those are the 3 ways that you can basically pull. The DM can adjudicate failures. And there's a ton of narrative that can happen inside there, because you can mix, because you can rotate. You can have like a creature, every time you fail an attack, it heals. Like that's a troll. Or it could be every time you fail to attack, it summons more allies to protect it. That's like a summoner or like a captain of the guard, capable of summoning, like calling in more soldiers. Or it could be dealing damage to you when you fail. So like you fail the roll, and in response to you missing the attack, they take advantage of the opening that you leave, and they stab you with an opportunity attack, for instance. So all the characters take a turn, and then the world takes a turn where something happens, or everyone has to make saving throws to avoid damage or condition effects. That's just it's just role-playing stuff. But the narrative comes from how does the DM want to translate the failure that the team rolls, and when the DM starts introducing additional threats or dealing damage to the team or healing damage on the threat that they're attempting, the team then adapts and decides how do they want to deal with that. But they never have full control of their dice, because once I use all my skills, my skills like strength and dexterity, I can't use skill anymore. So now I have to use either grit or toughness or power. And so let's say I use power, that takes my strength and my charisma away. So the next die roll that I make has to be with grit, either wisdom or constitution. But once I do, I get all three of my stat blocks back, and I'll get an effort die back, and I can spend that effort die on any die roll. So and I can decide it after the fact. So I make a strength roll with a +3, and I'm proficient in strength. So like say I get a +5 to my die roll, but I failed the result by 3. Okay, well I'm going to spend my effort die and try to make sure that roll hits. So that's or if you want, somebody else made a roll and they failed it, you could give your effort die and you could roll it, and if your effort die is higher than their effort die, if they didn't use okay, so if you want to use the help action, you can roll the stat for them. Basically, you roll a d20 and you roll your effort die. Your effort die is now gone until it refreshes. But if they didn't have an effort die, they now have an effort die. And if the result that you roll on your d20 and your effort die are higher than the ones that they had, you'll use the new ones in replacement. But you just gave up your effort. So you have just disempowered yourself from being able to make that additional die roll. But somebody else may have just refreshed and they want to help you, so they can give up their effort die. So you can have a rotation of players all giving help to each other by everyone giving up each other's effort dies to each other's actions, and everyone is constantly using effort. So, because every 1 out of 3 rounds you get your effort back. So as you continue rolling through rounds, someone's always going to be able to use effort to try to succeed at a task. So it's a really fun mix. We've been playing for a few months now. We're in our 4th adventure currently, and we've had 1 death, and we've had a few close calls. But mostly it's the diversity and the loose narrative of it. Because all you're doing is you're making an ability check with strength. What does that look like? Well, what are you doing? I've got a sword. I've got a shield. There's a giant. I want to punch that. I want to beat that giant up. I'm going to use my strength. That's what I have on deck right now. So I'm going to use a power attack using my strength roll. I'm proficient in strength. I'm going to use an effort die. Great. Make your die roll. Okay, great. That's a success. How does that go? Or how do you make your attack? And then you make your die roll, and then that gives me the narrative of how you failed. So then, I'm going to use my shield, the edge of my shield, to punch down on the top of its foot to break its toes. It's like, great, make your attack. Oh, I failed. Well, it lifts its foot, and in response, how bad did you fail? By 3. It kicks you in the face, take 3 points of damage, and get pushed back, for instance. Or take 2 points of damage and get pushed back. You can break up the action economy. If you fail by 3, I could deal 1 point of damage and him pushing you back, deal 1 point of damage, kick you back, and now create an additional complication. Like he throws the troll throws a bunch of caltrips on the ground, and they start to grow into skeletal warriors, but they're still in the process of growing. Currently, they're only a threat 1, but they will continue to grow. So every time the team fails a die roll, it adds to the skeletons growing, and they start crawling around as little pieces. Once they get 3 points invested into them, then they can animate and start attacking the team But as they continue to fail attacks, the skeletons become bigger and stronger and thicker and more powerful until they become zombies, and then fully fleshed out wights, and now they're flying. They just become more and more powerful as the team continues to fail. So even though the big bad evil guy might be diminishing in power, the monsters that he creates increase, and maybe he could sacrifice one of those monsters to regain hit points to be able to get his hit points back. So there's like a lot of really neat variables you can throw into the system. It's really fast. It's one action and then one movement, and movement can either be moving your body or moving through your bag, like moving your body to like take things out of your bag. It also counts as concentration. So if you are concentrating on a spell effect, you can concentrate and do an action or not move, or you can concentrate on the spell and move. But you can't both move, concentrate, and take an action, and you only have 2 actions. So you've got your actual die roll action and then your free action. Again, that free action can be concentration, it can be walking. We use banded distance of touch, near, and far. Touch is within arm's reach. Near is like within the same, like within a 30-foot room. They're in the same room. You can easily get to them and do stuff. However long it takes for you to draw a sword and then attack is basically how far away somebody that would be considered near. And then anything beyond that is far. So those are basically my 3 bands. So if I were to push you, I'd push you near, not within touching range. So then you'd have to use your free action to come within touching range. If you're concentrating on a spell, you're either going to walk back into that area and be able to maintain your spell, or you're going to give up the spell, walk into your area, and take an action. But you can keep using spells over and over and over again until you fail the skill check to, like each spell has a tier of difficulty. If you're using a spell against a creature, you use that difficulty. If you're using an open ability, then again, we have different tiers for different effects. Unless you're targeting something that already has a difficulty tier established, then you use that difficulty tier to overcome it with that spell. So there you go. That's the map. Like I could use a fireball. Like a fireball could be like a difficulty 4, so I'd have to roll a 13 or better to be able to cast a fireball. But if I'm fighting a dragon, for instance, like a blue dragon, and I'm going to use my fireball spell against it, and that dragon is a difficulty of 7, then even though the spell only has a difficulty of 4, hurting the dragon with the fireball requires a result of a tier 7 effort. So anyway, so what we're doing right now is all of that. Having said all of that, we're going to continue working on our dungeon today. We're working on, so one of the challenges, so there's physical challenges, there's psychic challenges, and we're creating a social challenge. And they can all use the same mechanics. Exploration, social, and combat all use the same mechanics for all 3 of those different pillars of adventure. D&D 5e specifically has different mechanics for combat, different mechanics for exploration, and then virtually no mechanics for social. And Cypher system has basically the same mechanics, has the same base engine for all 3 pillars of making the die roll beat the top number, but their combat pillar has a bunch of additional special abilities. They have some for social and a little bit for exploration as well, but still, from the base Numenera or Cypher system game, the bulk of mechanical options are lying inside of combat. So so this system's more like an inverted Cypher system more than anything else. But again, it uses bounded accuracy, so the system of resolution works with both Cypher system and a very stripped down Beckme style of 5e games. Basically a Beckme style D20, like 3rd edition, 5th edition, 4th edition as well would qualify. Pathfinder, both 1 and 2, Starfinder, Mutants and Masterminds, Call of Cthulhu 5e. All these games that roll a d20 and then add numbers to get a target number, they all work with this. So the social dungeon that we're doing is a negotiation. They're going to an embassy, a Droam embassy that's ran by Medusa. They're going here to ask them why some of their territory has been occupied by their forces. So this is the Asteroid Yes, if you check in the previous episode 17, that's in the playlist down below. Oh yeah, that reminds me. If we hadn't gotten to that, I'm on the X Twitter platform at Phil Kearney. You can follow me there. And if you think this stuff is interesting, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notifications in the future. Thanks to new subscribers. Really appreciate y'all. And let's see. Oh, yeah. And then, so the full playlist for this design that we're working on here, we're on episode 18. Here's all 18 episodes. Number 17 talks about, in previous episodes, talked about the asteroid belt. Here's my Discord community. If you want to support me on Patreon, you're certainly welcome to do so. And here's a bunch of books that I've made, so go check those out too. So back to it. Asteroid mining toolkit. Okay, cool. So this is an asteroid belt mining campaign. A, B, C, D, E, and F are the 6 territories that the team currently has licenses to mine. These are all different rival mining operations that are all NPCs, not controlled by the team. Number 10 here, this whole block is controlled by Droam, which are like trolls, ogre mage, gargoyles, Medusa, monster races that are intelligent to a degree, and so they're attempting to gain economic status and power in society by going out into the asteroids that surround Eberron, mining them for resources, and then sending them back to become a source of a source of wealth and materials for other nations and cultures to be able to take advantage of. So they're attempting to increase their diplomacy and world trade by involving themselves in these mining operations in space. And so, but currently the team has a problem because F and E are occupied by Droam warships, and they can't send miners in here to mine the asteroids. So they want to go. Here's hub, the circle. The dot is Eberron. The circle is hub. Each square is 10,000 miles. Eberron is about like 7,000 miles in size. So this ring is they call it hub because it's the ring that surrounds Eberron, and they've built all sorts of like cities and embassies to coordinate conflicts and agreements between the belters or the asteroid system miners and who's on the surface of the planet. Hub is used as a transition between asteroids and surface, and so far the entire campaign has been taking place in the asteroids, and now is moving to Hub for the embassy challenge. So that is the social challenge that the team is embarking upon, and we are designing it as a as a 5-room dungeon that is a negotiation. So we know that the person that they meet at the embassy is they'll either the guardian could be one of two things. They can either be a Droam zealot or a traitor to Droam, depending on how well the team handles the challenge with with their first point of contact. They don't know anyone in the Droam embassy, so they don't know who this guy is. He's either legit or he tricks them. None of my players watch my streams, so this is okay. If they catch it in the future, they'll have a chuckle. So this is Schrodinger's dormant. He can either be an ally and teach you how to be able to successfully have negotiations with the Medusa ambassador that represents Droam, or he's going to trip you up and lead you into a trap that's going to make it more difficult for you. So the problem is there's Droam forces occupying the team's territory. Get out. The team isn't strong enough militarily to force them out without potentially risking a full conflict with the entire nation of Droam. And Droam occupies 10 squares while the team only has 6. So they're significantly more powerful than the team. Each square can basically measure their relative power. So like they have 6 here. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 power. This one has 6 power. This one has 10. This 11. This one has 18. This one has 19. This one has 14, 5, 6. There you go. So the team is currently one of the smaller guilds, one of the smallest 3. So they can get bullied a lot. So they have to be careful about the conflicts that they choose, which is why they decided to go with diplomacy, Because if they went in with their gun blazing, throwing their weight around, it could blow up in their face. And they don't even really know why Droam are there. So they decided to go on the diplomacy mission. Here we go. So the Guardian is either going to help or hurt them. If they succeed at defeating the Guardian, he is going to help them. If they fail to defeat the Guardian, he is going to lead them into a trap. The complications that the team has is the trap. And the trap here is, okay, so each adventure has 10 days to resolve. At the end of those 10 days, the team gathers resources from the asteroids. And if they can't get E and F back within 10 days, they can't get any resources from these asteroids. And they're in orbit. They're slowly moving counterclockwise. So in 10 days, they lose what's in F. It goes into Droam, and they lose it completely. What was in E becomes F. What was in D becomes E. Whatever's in the Elven territory now comes into the team's territory in D. If it takes them another 10 days to resolve what's going on here, E, what is now F, also falls into Droam. What is now E from D is now F. What was from the Elves in D becomes E, and now the Elves gives you something new. So there's always this rotation of stuff moving around the asteroid belt. It doesn't have to be that way. You could just leave something occupying the same square until it's exhausted, and when it's exhausted, then another asteroid falls into position because there's space and they're slowly being pulled towards the planet. So you would have to the goal is to break down all of the asteroids, break down whatever's in your territory as fast as you can, because it's eventually going to fall to orbit. So what we could do is like have one start here, 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 and then it hits hub, and now it starts damaging the planet. But that would require you to be able to knock out, like drop an asteroid from 100 to 0% by the time it moves through the square. And the result of your ability check is the percent that you destroy. So if you roll a 14 on your ability check, that would be enough to start tearing down an asteroid with a difficulty of 4. Because 4 times 3, 12 plus 1, 13. You rolled a 14. You start tearing down that rock, but you've only torn down 14% of that rock. It still has 86 to go. And if you start working on it here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more rolls before it hits hub and deals damage, right? That's a way you could do it. By drifting this way. I'm having it drift this way in that it's rotating around in a spiral, so everyone has a chance to take a shot. Like whatever's in F right now will get chewed through here in the second orbit until it comes back around to the team again, and then it'll be what was in F will eventually be in A. But there's so many people that are going to be taking bites out of that rock as it wheels around. By the time, like, that's going to be like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. It's literally going to be 20 squares before it gets back around to A. And if everybody just takes a 5% bite out of that as it goes around, it's going to be 0 and gone before it comes back into your territory. So we assume as things go around in orbit, we assume that they get chewed up and disappear somewhere around inside of here, but there's more rocks that are always spiraling in that you've never seen before. So what's going on out here right now, you won't see until it makes its way around here. And if you don't have a territory, you don't know what's going on in that orbit. So as it continues to wheel its way around, bam, now it hits territory 2. You finally see it. And if other people have been chewing, like I can chew on it here, I can chew on it here, I can chew on it here and here and here and here, not here. Here and here and here and here, not here. Here and here and here and here. And here and here, not here, not here. And here and here and here and here and here. It's like 40 bites that it just had taken out of it. That asteroid would be absolutely 0. So what you see in here are going to, we have a table that shows what percentage of them have been torn away by the time they get into your territories. And the more valuable minerals in asteroids get chewed up first. So there's higher frequency of good material further away from hub as they spiral in, the shittiest quality like copper or just carbon, nothing. It's just like you have to waste your time to get rid of it, but it's worth literally nothing. It's just rock that needs to get broken down. Or copper or silver. You'll find gold and electrum out here. You'll find platinum and and mithril out here. You'll find adamantine and bieshk out here, and then way out here in the 5th range orbit, you'll start finding dragon shards and what was it? Carbon and copper, silver and electrum, gold and platinum, mithril and bieshk. And then in the 5th rank orbit, 5th tier orbit is adamantine and dragon shards. So that's why Sarlona is so far out in orbit, because all they're interested in are dragon crystals, dragon shards, and adamantine. These other organizations would love that stuff too, but we have to push our ways out to it. Elves have access to dragon shards and adamantine and mithril and all the good stuff. So anyway, so that's the idea. As you move further and further out in orbit, it's more and more expensive to be out there. So E and F being occupied by Droam could mean that they're just trying to take these territories away and mine them themselves, expanding their territory through hostility. Or there could be something else going on. The team really doesn't know until they ask. So that's what they're doing. The Guardian is there. They ask them what they're doing there. They are going to make ability checks using power, their charisma, skill, their intelligence, or grit, their wisdom, to basically make ability checks to overcome the Guardian, who's going to have a difficulty tier of 4. So they'll have to roll a 13 or better, and they need 4 hits. Every time they succeed, he's more willing to help them. Every time they fail, he leads them into the traps. And so that means every time they fail, negotiations break down. He has to walk away, and it's going to take whatever the degree of failure they have. That's the number of days that they don't get to continue the conversation, because this consultant has to check with his leader, with his leaders, to find what the appropriate protocol is. So the team is basically left hanging and waiting. They only have 10 days to be able to collect loot from these territories, so they're going to be on the timer right away. But it's only a difficulty of 4. So that means that they can have, they could have up to 4 failure, but they only have to roll a 13. So chances are, if they fail, it's going to be in 1 or 2, in degrees of 1 or 2. So they're only going to be losing 1 or 2 day chunks at a time. Meanwhile, the damage that they're dealing to this Guardian is going to continue accumulating. So if they can get 4 successes before the 10 days end, they can move on to the next point and still potentially get their resources. So the trick here is that and we talked about this last time, the reason why these territories are occupied is because there is a defector. A warlord is defecting from Droam and taking his entire clan with him, and they are moving into the next the next available territory, which happens to be the team. So now the team has the choice. The trick here is that they're going to be approached by these asylum seekers at their own embassy, while the team is here at the Droam embassy. And so by the time they get through the Guardian, that's when this asylum seeker arrives at your embassy and asks for asylum. If the team wants, they can either take the asylum seeker and gain the benefits of the benefits and the penalties of taking that asylum seeker, being that they now have more troops, so their military can increase. They can increase their loyalty by having newcomers that are thankful to be part of their fold, but it makes an enemy out of Droam. So in the future, if there's any complications along the border of Droam, it's probably going to be Droam military conflict that needs to be, it's potentially a hostile engagement. So the team is going to basically have a permanent enemy in Droam for taking these asylum seekers as refugees until they can somehow solve that problem by either, like, say, taking over Droam, going to war with Droam, whatever it is that they need to do. but that will be their next conflict if they take on these asylum seekers. If they decide to betray these asylum seekers, they can then go to the embassy and say, hey, we've got guys here that are defecting. They're like, great, give them to us. And then the team, and basically, it'll basically be, what do you want to give, for you to, what's your price for giving them to us? And now the team can negotiate rewards and benefits from the Droam Guild to basically get resources and bonuses and maybe alliances with Droam. But that's a negotiation. So the team then has to negotiate the challenge against the boss to gain the treasure, which is the resources. And so the boss will be like a difficulty like 6. So they'll have to roll a 19 or better against them with 6 successes to win. And every time they fail, the new complication they get is getting information from the asylum seeker, so that Drome has more intelligence. They may or may not get this asylum seeker back alive. So while the team has their trust, use that trust to milk them for information. And then whatever their degree of failure was, like say they need a 19, they got say a 6. That's down by 13. 13 divided by 3 is 4 point something, round up to 5. So a 6 would be a 1 degree of success, right? And it was a 6 ranked challenge. So they failed by, what was that? They rolled a 6. That's a second degree. That's only a first degree success. So that's 5 degree of failures. So the Droam won't negotiate with you further. Like, you're not going to be able to get anything from this until you defeat that challenge 5 in milking information from the asylum seekers. So now what we need to do is design, what do the asylum seekers know? So I think this is working out. It's interesting. I like where this is going. So let's find out, what do the asylum seekers know? Asylum seekers. Okay, so we're going to use the Oracle system, and I talked about this last time in a few episodes recently. Oracle system is 2 6-sided dice. One sets the difficulty, and the other one attempts to succeed at it. Whatever number I roll on this, whatever the challenge is the result of the die, the challenge die, and the result die either matches or beats the number on the difficulty. The result, if it matches or beats the difficulty, the answer is yes. Otherwise, the answer is no. So if I were to ask a question, a yes or no question, and I roll a 1, the answer is absolutely yes. No matter what, because I can't roll below a 1, right? If the answer was a 6, I would have to roll a hard 6. Otherwise, the answer is no. See, there's that range. So if I rolled a 1, on the results die, if I roll a 1, if that succeeds, it could only succeed with another. If the challenge was 1, the result is 1. That means, despite it being inevitable in succeeding, you were so close to failure. There's something going on there. What complications, what difficulties, what more is going on here that I don't know about? If the challenge was a 6 and I rolled a 1, not only is the answer highly unlikely, it went off the absolute worst way it could possibly happen. I got a 1, the worst result. So whatever this was, not only did it not work, it was disastrous. So this is like the horrible no. If instead I rolled a 6, despite it being almost impossible to succeed, it happened. So what about that made this almost impossible task succeed? There's a story there. So that's what the Oracle dice are giving to us. If the result was a 6, I rolled a 1. Worst result ever. If it was a 1 and I got a 6, not only was it destined to be, you did it perfectly. What did that cause, create, or give to you as a result of doing so? If the challenge is a 3 and I rolled a 1, it's like, this could happen, but you absolutely failed at the task with a 1, or you absolutely crushed it with a 6. So this is setting whether it will succeed or not, and this is telling us how, like, the degree of success if it succeeds, or what the degree of failure is if it failed. So using that Oracle system, we can get quantum answers for binary results. So I'm going to roll 2 dice. Typically, the one closest to me is the challenge, and the one further away from me is the result. Otherwise, I go from left to right. If they land next to each other, the one on the left is the challenge, and the one on the right is the result. So I roll 2 dice. The challenge is a 1. The result is a 4. That would mean that I succeeded. It was an obvious yes, and I succeeded, and it was executed rather well. So the first question is: Asylum Seekers. Is this a monstrous race? And I rolled a 3 and a 5. So yeah, it's a monstrous race. And the answer was yes. So let's see. We know there's a number of types of monsters. There's Medusae, there's gargoyles, there's trolls, there's ogre magi. Is it one of these? 1 in 4. Yes, it's one of those 4. They're going to be okay. So we already determined that that Droem didn't know that this defection of an entire clan was going to happen. So a clan is a large affair. So it's either going to be, it could be an ogre mage, right? It could be an ogre mage with all of its green skin troops on ships. It could be a flight of gargoyles, because gargoyles can fly in space and survive without breathing or eating or drinking. They're elemental creatures, but they do love breaking down and eating rocks. So that's why they're such great miners. So it could be that. It could be a mining clan that they're losing, which is going to damage their commerce. It could be an ogre magi. No, we already had the ogre magi. And there it could be trolls, which are shock troops, like on ground hand-to-hand combat physical troops, or it could be a Medusae, which is a diplomat and a leader and can turn things into stone. So a powerful warrior. Let's start off at the top. Is it a Medusae? I got a 4 and a 2, so the difficulty was 4. The challenge was 4. The result was 2, so it's definitely not a Medusa. Is it gargoyles? 1 and 5. It is gargoyles. So this is a mining clan. Is that right? 1 and a 1. So yes, it is, but it almost wasn't. So I now have gargoyles. Were these orbital shock troops as well? Is it both of them? 1 and a 2. So it's a mix of miners and spaceborne soldiers. So this could increase both their military and their loyalty industries. Is that true? 2 and a 5. Yes. So if they do this perfectly, they could gain enough resources from these refugees to increase both the rank that they have in their military, to have more powerful passive combat in space and defenses, and it can also increase their loyalty, which will make it easier for them to hire troops in the future, and to lead negotiations, because you're more trustworthy, because you're building rapport with peoples. So the team is potentially gaining gargoyle troops. No. Just miners? 4 and a 4, so it's just miners. What's up with the military? Military is occupying. Oh, interesting. So E and F, they're separate, aren't they? So there's gargoyle miners in E and military in F. Is that true? 2 and a 4. Yes, it is. Huh. But the team is specifically negotiating F right now, and they're leaving a passive role to the guild to send scouts to find out what's going on in E. So the team is actually talking about the military force. So, the team could gain. Okay, so Droem is willing to give up the miners for the soldiers. Is that right? 6 and a 4. No, they're not. They want the miners back, and they're fine with sacrificing the soldiers. 6 and no, they don't want to give up either one of them. But is there one that the team can negotiate? But the team has to negotiate them separately. 6 on 6. So yes, they do. 6 on 6. So they have to negotiate both of them. So so Asylum Seekers, Gargoyle, Military, and Commerce clan worth 4 points of resources. Worth 8 points of resources to attain. Military equals 4. Commerce equals 4. So if the team gets them, they could get 4 points of military, 4 points of commerce, or they could give up chunks of this back to Droam. So that's what we're looking at right now with 8 points of resources to attain. Let's see, what do they know? They can give up position. They can give up military positions inside. They can provide basic information about the industry rank of Droam. 3 and 4, yes, they can. Offer industry stats for Droam. Offer details about each territory. 1 and 1, yes. Offer details about each territory, each controlled territory, each Droam controlled territory. Grant offer secrets, diplomacy secrets. 5 and 2. They don't have diplomacy secrets. Information about upcoming piracy raids in other territories. Does not know about that. Knows where they plan to expand next. Does not know that. Okay, so it knows the status of industries, and it knows the occupants of each territory in Droam. In Droam's territory, like who's running it, like who runs gargoyles, which ones does the ogres control, which ones do the trolls control, which ones are directly controlled by Medusae. That makes sense. So let's fill that in real quick. Cool, that'll work. Let's yeah. So we'll go gargoyle, ogre, troll, Medusa, gargoyle. You know, trolls don't control territories. Medusa, ogre, gargoyle. I'm gonna go gargoyle here. this one and this one have now gone blank because the teams, these are moving into here. Yeah. This is what we call making sausage, folks. In case you're interested how to run a role-playing game, here you go. We're doing it right now, guys. This is the thought processes and stuff that go into it. Okay, so let's see. We should actually call that loot. Commerce Clan. So what's the issue? There's an issue, right? They had to leave for a reason. Is it because gargoyles are poorly treated? Yes, they are. Gargoyle Military Commerce Clan. They are treated poorly, left to float for years, and mine without end, fed up. They turn to the team because they have dwarves, gnomes, and warforged. So they have a wide, diverse. They accepted the warforged, which have been culturally unaccepted in Eberron. So the team's guild is earning a reputation for being tolerant. So is that it? 6 and 1. Huh. It sounded like a good narrative. I'm going to explore that. I could always override the dice if I think something's a good idea and the dice don't agree with me. But stockfish is stockfish. So let's ask it what the best move is supposed to be. So despite thinking that being a cool move, what does stockfish like most? So they aren't there because of the team's tolerance, but they like the team. But why is that? They recently had a conflict with miners that these gargoyles caught wind of and are impressed that the team is treating their employees with dignity while the gargoyles aren't. Is that it? 6 and a 2. No, that is absolutely not it. What the deuce? What is going on with these gargoyles? So they don't, do they appreciate, is it admiration of the guild that is causing them to get there? 1 and a 4. So yes, there's something admirable about them. What is it? Is it that they stood up to their second adventure. The elves were occupying territory over here. Territory D was occupied by elves a couple of adventures back, and the team sent military in to push them out. Is that what the gargoyles are respecting about the team? 2 and a 3. That is exactly what the team is. Okay, so the gargoyles respect that when the team was challenged by a larger military power, they decided to fight anyway. So that's what led the team. That's what made the gargoyles decide to go with this team as opposed to some other territory. There we go. They're treated poorly, left afloat for years. Admire the characters, admire the guild. Courage to stand against elven military despite the odds. Now they want to know. Now they want to see if the guild can be trusted to offer the same against Droam. This is the critical point right here. This right here is where the conflict is, because if this go, depending on how the diplomacy goes here. So once the team starts getting led down the trap is going to be a difficulty of 5. So once they get in, once the Guardian starts they start interacting with the embassy doorman, he's either going to help them, as in like they're eventually going to find out about the asylum seekers first, or they get led into a challenge 5 trap, which is delay tactics, like we talked about before. It's delay tactics to hold up the team while the embassy is trying to find out what happened to the defectors and why. They're going to be eventually at the asylum telling the team why they defected, but when the team first gets there, the embassy had literally just found out about the defection. So they're caught off guard too, just like the characters are. Dram doesn't know why they're occupying the team's territories, and now the team is asking, why are they occupying my team's territories? They need to stall. So that is exactly what they are doing. So this trap is a stall tactic to give the ambassadors time to find out about the defectors, to find out why they did, and to offer them the option of trapping the asylum seekers, the defectors as well. Betray them, gain their trust, find out what they know and are willing to trade, so that you can hand over, here's what they offered us in exchange for asylum seeking, which is absolutely going to be a betrayal of secrets of Droam, and it's stealing resources in the form of the mining and military clan. We're essentially stealing resources from Droam, which they would declare as an act of war if we had come and taken it from them. But because their asylum seekers brought those resources to us, the crime is on the asylum seekers, the defectors. So Droam won't have any problem with the team if the team hands them over, and on top of that, the team can potentially gain rewards from Droam, either like assistance or like a number of points of just resources that they can then invest, along with being able to mine the territory that will be surrendered. And it's F is the military group. So F is the one that they're negotiating right now, and then whatever happens with E, that's going to still be resolving, but they're still seeking asylum. So that could get tricky depending on how that weighs out. We won't know until we see how the team deals with the asylum seekers squatting in E. F is where the military clan is. E is where the miners are at. So the team is currently negotiating the return of the military group, so that their leaders can be punished, and that the military, the troops, can be distributed amongst other soldiers, so that they don't really lose many resources. Like, it'll probably cost them 2 resources to clean up the coup. But they are still down to 4 points of commerce over here, and that's important to them. The team could keep that for themselves, because they're starting to bring rock-eating bugs online that might pair well with the gargoyles, if the gargoyles are integrated. Because currently the dwarves, the gnomes, and the warforged that are digging rocks are using the commerce industry as their die roll to do so. But if they start leaning into this, they found bugs that can eat rocks, so they're trying to herd and grow them as things that they can just drop on an asteroid to eat. away all the carbon and leave all the minerals behind that you need to scoop up and fly off with. Super easy idea, right? But how do you do it? So that's what they're trying to figure out right now. And the gargoyles eat rock also. They have to pick it apart, but they do. They can pick the rock apart from the minerals, basically by chewing on it and dissolving it and just spitting the minerals out and dissolving the rock. So the bugs kind of work the same way as the gargoyles. So there could be some interesting synergy there. But that's going to be part of whatever the upcoming adventures are, is exploring that synergy. But these are creatures. They're not processes. So this would then be using. They would then switch to using loyalty instead of commerce for their asteroid digging in the rocks that they do that with. So that could create conflict between that. That could create a conflict with the mining forces that they currently have, basically losing a job. The team will either have to expand their territories so that they can keep the miners they have currently employed, or they expand territories and have the gargoyles and the insects work those territories specifically. But the team currently has 6 territories, and they have enough miners to be able to mine all 6 of those squares. So if they incorporate another territory worth of gargoyles and then bring online another territory for bugs, somebody needs 2 squares. So they're probably going to have to invest. But these squares out here cost 9 resources each. This is 1 resource. This is 4 resources, and this row here is 9 resources. This will be 16, and this is 25. So it takes a ton of resources the further you move away from hub to be able to sustain and maintain these territories, right? Because it's further away, it requires more logistics, more time, more people. It's more. It just requires more. So once you purchase a territory, you've got enough resources to fund operating that square. So once you have like 25, 16, 9, 4, 1, what is that, 50 some odd resources? 1, 4, that's 5, that's 14, that's 30, 55. So it takes a total of 55 resources to move from here to here to here to here to here. And yeah, that's expensive. So for them to be able to incorporate the gargoyles and to incorporate the rock-eating bugs, the swarm, we'll just call it the swarm. To incorporate the gargoyles and the swarm, they need 2 new territories, which is going to cost them a total of 18 points. And they're only getting 2, like 6 here, and then 9 here. They're only gaining 15 points, assuming everything goes right with all of these all these territories. 2, and that's 6. Only 15. They're only gaining 15 points. So they need 18 to occupy 2 squares. So they can only So at the end of this, they can only put in at most enough points to get 1 territory. So that would be able to accommodate the gargoyles. But then that means they can't bring their bugs online yet. So they're going to have to delay the bugs until they can afford another territory to put the bugs. Otherwise, wherever they try to put the bugs, that's going to immediately create a conflict with the miners, and that's going to shut that square down. Ha! So this is fun. I'm excited about this. Okay, so we've got our diplomacy. We know what they're looking for. Asylum seekers and gargoyle military and commerce clan. They are treated poorly, left to float for years. Admire the guild's courage to stand against elf military despite the odds. Now they want to see if the guild can be trusted to offer the same against Dram for them. Path of Betrayal. Path of Betrayal, and then there's the path Path of support. The path of betrayal is work with Droam to reveal secrets as evidence, to return gargoyles. Path of support is work with the gargoyles to defend work with the gargoyles to integrate into the guild in defiance of Droam. Okay, so what are the actions? How can the team interact? They can make observations about how they're feeling. Interaction is going to be either ask a question, make an accusation, let's see, so let's see, who is the envoy that they're working with? Is Ogre Mage? 1 on 4, yes it is. Disguise himself? Yes it is. Ogre Mage sympathetic to the gargoyle? Yes he is. Is this part of a larger problem? Potentially no. Is this just a sympathizer? Yes it is. Are there many sympathizers? Yes they are. Are they organized? No they're not. Are they attempting to become organized? Yes they are. Is there a potential insurrection happening inside Droam? Yes there is. Could the team potentially exploit it? No. Because they don't know about it? No. But because there's no trust yet? No. Because they don't have enough gargoyles? Yes. Okay, so the team could potentially pull Droam apart by taking on more and more refugees and then flipping the territories on Droam. That's interesting. Led to a person. Person is there. Person in room. Okay, so we're gonna start off. Start of adventure. Envoy asks how the characters can assist. Requires a roll. AQ. They can either accuse or question. Requires a roll. So the world starts by simply asking the team why they're there. They then have to either ask immediately, there's territory there, or they can make an accusation, you've taken my territory, however they want to phrase it. Then the team can either, from there, I mean, they could make a passive roll. They could do observe or interact, and if they decide to interact, equals ask a question, accuse or question, purpose. If they observe, sense of mood. What is the sense of mood like? So we know this is somebody who's trying to determine whether the team can be trusted with the asylum seekers or not while they're in the embassy, or they are trying to delay them so that the ambassador can learn more about the defectors. So it could be either one. So if they fail the die roll, so if they fail the die roll, they're going to be getting what? Moodiness, concern, moodiness, annoyance, distraction, discounting the team. 4 on 4. That makes sense. If they succeed the die roll, they're going to notice a caginess about them, a nervousness, and almost a hope. 4 on 5. Yes. So that, since the mood, that's going to be plus or minus. So then, or they could ask a question, require a roll, and then depending on success or failure, the envoy is either going to continue to show distraction and annoyance. This could be this will be their first question is going to create a success or a failure. But we have three characters. So let's see. Sense of mood, ask a purpose, requires a roll. So if they fail the roll, he's going to deflect and attempt to obviously attempting to slow the team down. If they succeed at the die roll, they'll get a sense of caginess and oddity about them. Oh, but how do I express that without them specifically looking at the mood? I would, So the mood provides you insights on where the character is going, but I also have to provide a response. Military operation that has gone awry is where this is going to start. So, okay, so if the team makes an observation, thank you. Where are we at? 11:18. Okay, great. I still got 40 minutes. We can mess around with this for a while. I think we'll be able to hash this out by the time we get there. So if I were to express this on a map while they're having the conversation, I could be revealing pieces of the map of the conversation, leading the conversation in different directions. Open greetings. Military operation leading down towards either a trick or a trap. Huh. So during the conversation, hold on. LeFou, I'm afraid I've been thinking. Let's look at this. So if while we're having the conversation about the conversation, we're starting this room, the team is either going to have a success or a failure. The way that the system works is you generally fail forward. So they make an observation, they ask a question, they're going to find that there is a path forward here. And that, I mean, that would be the wording, right? You're in a conversation with a diplomat and you're trying to get answers above their pay grade. So you're trying to impress upon them above that this is above their pay grade. So you're trying to get past the guardian into the structure. So that's going to lead away from this guardian deeper into conversation. So whatever observations or the result of their initial challenge is going to be, they're going to get a sense of mood. Success or failure is leading them towards trap or trick. So depending on how it goes, they're going to get a mood off of them. And then whatever questions they ask, whenever they ask a mood, they're going to find that there seems to be a path forward, like the envoy is waiting for something or is attempting to conceal something. And so those will be the two words that we use. It seems like they're attempting to buy time or are attempting to seem like they want to share information but aren't willing, but don't seem too nervous to do so. And depending on which pathway the team chooses, they could either attempt to expedite or ensure trust. So delay to expedite or trust to reassure. So here you'll either be, so you can sense that he's attempting to delay, so you can attempt to make an interaction to press upon the importance of haste so that they can get back the money and resources to resolve whatever it is. Or they can sense that this guardian wants to tell them more than they have, but needs to have assurances that that the guardian can trust, that the team will be able to interact, be able to keep these secrets, whatever it is wants to share. So then the team has to provide a reassurance. If either the expediting or the reassurance fails, it creates a time delay, and that is what's going to trigger the first degree of delay, the first complication, which is eating up time. So then when they come back and they've gotten the reassurance, or they've been able to successfully because we can milk that path a few times. Reassurance, expedite. Every time somebody rolls, they'll either make progress in one of those directions. And when the team fails, let's see, so the world turns and it doesn't require them to make any saving throw, but it then opens up the next answer The next question from the ambassador. Start of the adventure. Envoy asks how the characters can assist military operations that have gone awry. First delay gets dropped in here. So that's the first world turn. Second world turn, military operation that has gone astray. Let's see. Second delay. So the first delay could be a failure up to 3, 1 to 4. So we need to have probably 2-day delay, 4-day delay. Probably I need three layers of delay. There's O and I. O equals sense of mood, positive or negative. And then I equals AQ, purpose equals require a roll. Military delay, require a roll. AQ, what is purpose? Excuse me for a hot second. I need to apparently resolve some issues. All right, well, apparently something is coming up and I'm going to have to bail for the day. So I'm going to be back here on Monday morning. I'm going to finish cleaning this stuff up and have this ready for my team. But that's the general principle that we're going through, of them being able to see into that there's paths forward. And as they discover this trustliness, I'm thinking that they're going to discover that there's like a tangent, right? Like they find a secret door. They can tell that there's this delay that's leading down the way, but that's not the real point. The real point is the secret passage that's going to lead, that's trust-based. S. Yeah. And then once they get through this stuff, this will lead to the actual boss. Yeah, that's how this works. That's the secret path. And so yeah, that's how this works. That's the secret path. And so Yeah, and then there's resolution. This makes sense. This might only require maybe a couple hours, like maybe a 2-hour session for us to be able to resolve all of this, for the team to reestablish. It'd be a quick session. That we run 1-hour episodes. So this is my lunchtime adventure team. So we run in 1-hour bursts, and so. I doubt they'll get through this in one session. It'll probably be resolved in 2 sessions. I'm interested. Okay, so that's it for now, guys. I got to bounce out of here. There's stuff that's going on, apparently. So I really appreciate anyone that's checking this out. If you think this stuff is interesting, like, subscribe, bell icon down below. Swing by my Discord channel. Check out my books. If you want to support me on Patreon, God bless you. And I will see you guys in the future. Thanks a lot.